Spawn, this is a special video.
How special is it, Adam?
I don't know. The story mode is bland and boring. The idea for the tiresome formula of these 4 elements compromising the setting and story already makes me not really care about what its story mode is about. I know what I could expect, but the story wasn't in-depth enough to keep me captivated. Story is incomplete. I did not like the way the story was basically a slideshow with a 4th-grade reading level. That made no sense until it got to the last fight. Like, all those slideshows could have gone down and then just the one fight they were centered on could happen and so on for each rival, but that sounds like too much work, I guess? The story mode was a copy pasta to each character, just changing the cutscenes. The story mode doesn't really make sense and is something you, the person, have to put together yourself for it to make sense. There's a story mode that has lots of plot holes and is super short. The lore is so bad, I enjoyed the rest of the game less after playing it. Rivals story mode. You've played the entire thing. We both played the entire thing.
Did I?
Yeah, you played it from start to finish. We're doing Rivals of Aether Let's Play. We're gonna do some story mode. They added a story mode. What is special about this video is that we have done something that no one else has.
Put up a green screen.
No, and that's read every single panel or picture. We've read all of the text of the Rivals story mode. We are now Rivals story mode experts. We know it from start to finish. Just quick general thoughts. What do you think of the Rivals story?
It could use some tinkering.
Just a little bit?
Well, I don't want to be mean.
Okay, so in this video, we're going to summarize the entire Rivals story. Then we're going to talk about what do we like, what do we hate. Mostly hate, probably. And then we're going to go over me, Adam Carra, my rewrite of the Rivals story mode. I took a lot of the elements, I wanted to make it better, and Dan, please hire me for Rivals 2. Fawn, why don't you summarize the Rivals story for me?
Okay, Zetterburn, he comes back from a battle.
All right, so if you're not aware with Rivals story because you haven't touched it because it's garbage, a number of the original characters, minus Daedalus and Apsa, they don't have story modes, and none of the DLC characters have story modes. But all the OG characters all have one like viewpoint on a series of events that all sort of intermingle. They don't all necessarily line up, and they're not all about the same things. It is very confusing. Yeah. So, Safwan, hit me with Zetterburn's story.
So he comes back from battle, and he finds his dad is dead, and he thinks, oh no, somebody killed him. And the dagger is special, I think,
because Forsburn.
Oh, okay, yes. So he thinks Forsburn did it. But Forsburn said, I didn't do it. So he runs away, and then we learn about the smoke people.
That's Forsburn's story. We're talking about Zetterburn's story. What does Zetterburn do?
Orcane is developmentally disabled. And so he's kind of
Orcane is like a dog. Like, unlike a lot of the other, like, Zetterburn, Forsburn, they're like humans or whatever, to not have a lack of a better word. There's probably a furry word for it. I guarantee you there's a furry word for it, right?
There's a slippy.
There's some distinction. No, not that. I'm talking about, like, there's probably furries that are into, like, anthropomorphized, human type furries. Oh, yeah. And there's one, or is that just bestiality?
No, it's like a difference between, like, the Goofy and the Plutos.
How does Orcane start? What does he do and how does it end?
So he's like Lenny from Of Mice and Men. So he's told, like, Orcane, you need to help us steal something. He's like, okay. So then he goes through the pipes, or he goes through water, and then he sees something on the ship. And he comes back and it's on fire.
All right, now Raster, which intersects with Orcane.
Does it?
Yeah.
I just read this today. Why can I forget? I can't remember. Oh, wait. Then he fights Purple Maple.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Maple, what does Maple do?
Maple makes syrup.
Oh,
they come together and like the Avengers, and like, hey, sorry for killing your people, and like, yeah, sorry for breaking your wall or something, and then they fight, and then.
And what would you rate it out of 10?
I give it a solid 3, 4.
I was gonna give it a 3. Yeah,
3
a 3
or
is
4.
what I'd say.
4 maybe.
There you go. Okay, let's do a real summary now. So yeah, I've compiled basically a list of the events in more or less the order that they take place. Some of them happen simultaneously, so, forgive me. Don't be like, this happened actually the same. Remburn, Emperor Remburn of the Fire Kingdom, he's been murdered.
Oh,
Everyone blames Forsburn because the dagger that was used to kill him was identical. Zetter immediately assumed, hey, you must have done it because of the dagger. And Forsburn's like, no. And so they fight. Forsburn has to leave. Forsburn then meets the Smoke Clan. Maple, she's fighting some abyss tentacles, and she's like, okay, I guess I better go figure out what this shit is about. And she just goes off to go find the abyss tentacles. Crag finds a big hole in the rock wall, presumably caused by these big abyss tentacles, right? And so then he has to fight an abyss Maple. Then randomly, Raster and Bradshaw just run into him. And Crag just assumes they're bad because he hates gays, I guess. And so they fight. Bradshaw gets injured. Raster takes him home. Crag's like, well, that was weird. And then just ignores the whole bird thing and goes off to he also tracked down the abyss. Where's this abyss crap coming from? Orkane, he sneaks onto an Air Armada ship, and he sees a shady deal that doesn't matter at all. This deal is never mentioned again in the story mode, but that's what Orkane
It's gonna
witnesses.
be in the sequel.
Maybe, I guess. I have no idea. There's no payoff to it whatsoever. So then, because he's in the Air Armada ship, Raster just runs into him, and they fight. We go back to Fire Capital. Loxodon is being crowned, emperor or whatever, because Remburn's dead. And Abyss Orkane steals their torch that the fire people care about, even though they can make as much fire as they want. That one torch is real important. And so Zetterburn racistly, runs after that Orkane and goes to the water town and burns it to the ground, killing everyone, presumably. Orkane comes down and sees, oh, everything's on fire, rescues the baby, your favorite. Meanwhile, Forsburn, after, being helped by the Smoke Clan, he comes back to Fire Capital. He's smoking? Was that what that
like
what is? He ends up fighting an abyss version of Zetterburn that's just there for whatever reason. And then he notices that while he was distracted fighting that abyss setter, the Smoke Clan is being attacked. Maple, who's wandering around trying to find the abyss, she witnesses this Smoke Clan attack. Forsburn just teleports back after he sees that. They fight, and then they're like, wait a minute. Why would you be behind this? Let's be friends instead. They become friends. They're like, let's go track the abyss. So then everybody meets up at the same cliffside somehow. So they all track each other down, or tracking the abyss, fight the abyss. They defeat it, and that's the end of the story mode. And that is it. Before we get into why we hate it so much, because that's pretty obvious, what did we like? What did you like, Stefan?
Well, I like the relationship between Forsburn and Zetterburn.
Yes, I agree with that.
I like that he's like, Forsburn is the illegitimate son of Emperor whatever. Renburn. I wish that was kind of touched on a little bit more, but it does add some drama, makes it a little bit Shakespearean.
What I like at its core, Rivals does have good characters, and the idea of like animals and their respective elements, like it makes sense, and it's easy. Like it's a good shortcut to being like, okay, Zetterburn, fire, angry, got it. Because that works is one of the reasons what's wrong with the story mode is there's actually like a pattern I was looking at. A lot of the story modes start like this. You open on the setting and we get backstory. And it's a bunch of stuff I don't care about because we don't need that information, right? Because we get fire people. Got it. Understood, right? It's so simple. I don't need all of this, like, they came from the water and thousands of years ago, like, they trade fish. It's like, yeah, I get it. Who cares? And then they fight an abyss thing, and then they go, man, that was weird, and then they go. And they leave. Like, that's basically the structure of each story mode. And I guess I've skipped into like what we don't like. Is there anything else we do like?
Well, I like the sort of combination of sort of like a steampunkish thing with the Air Armada mixed with the sort of ancient sort of like Roman sort of aesthetic of like the fire people and the primitivist sort of aesthetic of the tree dwellers or whatever.
Yeah, like the aesthetic works.
The aesthetics all work, and like to the respective players or characters or whatever. So I like that.
It's like first draft script stuff is what I feel like. The story mode feels like it's just mostly world building with events that they want to happen, but there's like not really context for the events because they spend too much time just giving us the world. Like one of the biggest problems with the Rival story is each one is about a character getting a conflict that's set up, that ultimately has no payoff.
Yes.
It's like, oh, Raster and Crag fight. Raster wants revenge. He tracks them down, and then that's just dropped. It's just completely dropped, and they go and fight the Abyss. All of them do this, essentially. Like, some of them have some kind of closure, like...
Or
Kane, yeah. I was going to say Forsburn, but then I realized it doesn't have closure because he goes back, doesn't fight his brother, fights an Abyss version of his brother, then tracks him down, and then it's dropped again.
Maybe Maple?
Maple just doesn't have a story whatsoever. Like, the biggest problem is nobody has an arc. Nobody learns any lessons. They all aren't really active characters. They're all just, like, reacting to events that are happening to them. Oh, the Abyss is attacking. I guess I'll go stop it, like, because that's my job, or whatever. Like, there's no, like, personal reason for most of the characters. There's, like, a lot of the pieces are, like, almost there. Like you said with Forsburn, like, there's something there.
Yeah, that's the closest one to, like, there's a personal story going on.
But it, like, doesn't go anywhere. Another big issue I had with the Rival story was I like the ambition that they had, like, oh, let's have each character have their own little section of this interconnecting woven story, which sounds cool, but in practice, it just ends up being extremely confusing, especially because like the player could pick any story at once, so you're getting different parts of the timeline, and so it's like, how do you even keep track of what the hell is going on? And none of the stories are like self-contained stories. Like only through like reading all of them do you get like half of a story.
Yeah, like for maybe like a TV show that would work, because it's just like following one character and you see the context, but like you know, they're very limited in, you know, what kind of art that they can show. And
oh yeah, I guess, what do you call it? You don't need to defend Dan, because I get that when they're trying to get the story mode out and ready for release.
Yeah.
And so they just didn't have the time or the resources to properly put into story mode in the first place. And so it was pretty much destined to fail. And I think it was too ambitious for its own good. And so I don't blame Dan. I don't think that we're better writers than Dan, although probably we are. But I'm not I'm not here to make that claim. We're just here to examine what we got.
Yes.
What's wrong with it and how it could be better. Like, this isn't an attack on Dan.
Why not?
You're right. Fuck Dan.
And how dare you make me play this?
Speaking of playing, like another issue with the Rival story that I found is from the player perspective is, this is something we've complained about before, the fights have nothing to do with the story for the most part.
Yeah.
Some of them do, like the very end fight of each one usually does directly relate.
Yeah, but usually it doesn't, and I would think that would be the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, and like the reason that really doesn't work is if the story doesn't care about the fights, why would we care about the fights? Right? Like there's
no weight to it.
Is a huge disconnect. I've distilled all the events of Rivals and I've rewritten it into a 3-act structure. One thing that I did right out of the gate was I threw out the whole multi-character angle looking at it. This is one story. So like in my mind, it would be more like Subspace Emissary from Smash, where you'd play the one story mode, and the game would force you to switch characters every once in a while. Sometimes you would have a choice or whatever. I don't really go into like the gameplay parts of it, but I did think about like having fights in mind. It's one narrative that does still tie in a lot of the events that do happen. I tried to make as little changes as possible, and more just tried to reorient things to point to, you know, inward and make sense.
Yeah.
And have any kind of cohesion and stakes and characters with an arc. Basic stuff. I tried to do.
Those are all good things to have in a story.
Yeah, I think so. Hopefully I accomplished them. I guess we'll find out. Forsburn and Zetterburn, they're with their dad Renburn, and they're in a trade deal with Aramata. This begins a little bit like the beginning of Zetterburn's story,
and also the beginning of episode 1, the Phantom
Menace. No, I was gonna
Menace.
say is think more like Thor 1. You got Thor and Loki. You got Zetterburn and Forsburn. They're not really like Thor and Loki, but like you got this brother, this like kingdom family. That's how it starts. They're in a trade deal with the Aramata. That doesn't really matter. Something that the Rival story does wrong is it puts their lore and stuff in front when it needs to be behind. Our characters shouldn't be controlled by the lore. The lore is to give context to our characters.
Right.
So during this trade deal, Orkane pops in and is stealing stuff because he's a thief, and Forsburn and Zetter stop him, or like they fight him, right? Hey, a fight right off the bat between characters. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And Orkane gets away, more or less defeated, but he does steal some stuff. Renburn thanks his sons. Hey, you guys did a good job. This deal is really important. This is, you know, gonna have peace between our two nations, the Fire Nation and the Air Nation. Zetter being racist, this time like literally on purpose, he's racist. He hates the water people, and he's saying like, these fucking water people, they're trying to sabotage this deal because they want war between the Air Nation and the Fire Nation.
They're trying to dilute our fire race.
Forsburn is the more cautious brother. He's like, hey, it was just one dude. It may be just a thief. We can't jump to conclusions.
Yeah.
The air people are very grateful. Hey, thanks, whatever, peace, yada, yada. We'll send one of our own to track down that thief. And you can see, Raster in the background. My approach to this is, to me, Zetter and Forsburn are the most interesting characters in the story mode, as we talked about. And so Forsburn and Zetterburn are more or less the main characters, and everybody else is like a supporting character. Later on, the deal went down more or less well after that, and Renburn wants to see Forsburn privately, and he tells him, even though Zetterburn is first in line, I want you to be the Emperor. I want you to be my successor, right? And Forsburn, still being like, he's like the more timid one. He's like, no, I'm not fit to lead. I don't want to be the leader. But Renburn's just like, you're the best. And then, he gets killed. Oh my God, just like the story mode. A lot of the events are the same. He gets killed by, an abyss creature that looks like Forsburn. From like a gameplay perspective, you'd be Forsburn, you'd fight some abyss creature, but then it would get away. Renburn's dead. Zetterburn walks in. Oh my God, what the hell is going on? Forsburn's like, I can explain. And then Loxodont. This is something I didn't talk about at all in the summary, because Loxodont, who is kind of set up to be the villain, is very much in the background of the story mode.
You never see a clear picture of him at all.
Yeah, so I made him a little bit more active in this story mode. Loxodont pops out, and he's like, I saw the whole thing. Forsburn killed Renburn. And so Zetterburn, he believes Loxodont, and Forsburn and Zetterburn fight. Forsburn gets his ass kicked and is forced to leave. And that's the end of Act 1. Act 1 is supposed to set up the world for what it is. We see kingdoms that have relationships, politics, yada yada. We get our main characters. Oh, we're nice and normal. We're buddies, we're brothers. And then, bam, father gets murdered. Things go bad. Forsburn is now forced out, on the adventure. So Forsburn's wandering around. He ends up at the rock wall. An abyss tentacle crashes through and creates that hole in the wall, which, surprises the crap out of Forsburn, and he gets knocked out. Crag wanders in to check out what the hell's going on, fights off some abyss creatures. Hey, you're playing a video game still. And then sees Forsburn, takes him to the tree people. I know, Dan wanted, every kingdom to be completely separate or whatever. I'm just combining the rock wall and the tree people, because who cares? Make it simpler. Switch over to Zetterburn. Zetterburn is the one getting crowned as emperor because he's next in line. And an abyss arcane comes in and steals the torch. The exact same thing happens. The main difference between this and actual story mode is Zetter's like, oh, I hate, the water people. We're gonna go after them. And he puts Loxodont temporarily in charge. As a viewer, you can kind of see okay, this is Loxodont's plan. Clearly. Yeah. So this is making, Loxodont more active. It's not just Renburn just dies and, he just immediately gets crowned or whatever. It's him plotting and planning, and he's manipulating Zetterburn. So yeah, Zetterburn grabs the boys and they head out. Meanwhile, Forsburn is, being held prisoner by the tree people. I say people, they're animals. He's trying to explain to Maple, oh my God, the abyss, bad stuff's happening. We need to just get the hell out of here. Things are not great. I'm a coward. My arc's not complete yet. And then they get attacked by more abyss stuff. And so Maple frees Forsburn for them to fight off. And then Maple goes and talks to the tree council or whatever. She then is like, hey, we need to go and figure out what the hell this abyss crap is about. The tree people don't care about Forsburn. And so they force Forsburn to go along with them, even though Forsburn's like, we should just run. Now we have Maple, Forsburn, Crag. We're starting to have our team assemble, and they set off. Now, meanwhile, Arcane. This is a twist, I guess, the idea is, you're seeing this for the first time, so we don't know anything about Arcane. We now see Arcane, who we previously thought was a thief. We find out he was actually just giving food to the village people, to the water village people. So now we're like, oh, okay, Arcane's a sympathetic character. And Raster, who was sent, by the air people to track Arcane down, witnesses this, and is like, oh, Arcane's not a bad guy. And so Raster immediately is like, okay, I'm not gonna kill Arcane. They become kind of buddies or whatever, and that's when the Fire Nation attacks, just like Avatar. You can see them chasing that purple Arcane that leads them to that city. Forsburn, Maple, and Crag see smoke coming from Merchant Port on their travel, so they go check it out. When they get there, Raster and Arcane are already kind of knocked down, defeated by Zetterburn and the Fire Bros. Zetter has the Abyss Arcane. He's ready to just kill it. Forsburn's like, don't do this, and Zetterburn blasts it. And notice that it just disappears because it's abyss. It's not real or whatever. It's wasn't an actual water person. And at that point, Zetterburn looks around and he realizes he just raised this town. And now we got the airport scene from Civil War: The Avengers. We got we got this conflict happening, right? This is our midpoint. This is Act 2.
Okay.
Zetterburn and the Fire Boys are suddenly up against Orcane, Raster, Maple, Forsburn, Crag. They fight. Now, though, Forsburn and company defeat Zetterburn. Zetterburn runs away in shame. He escapes. So as Forsburn and the squad are licking their wounds, a giant abyss tentacle comes out of the ocean and just starts wrecking the already destroyed merchant port town. And so Forsburn and the squad, now they are forced to run away and leave because the abyss is too strong. And then that's the end of Act 2. Things aren't looking great.
Yeah. Low point.
This is when they end up at the Smoke Clan. So one of the things I wanted to do too, approaching the story mode, is like each act is like a different aspect of the world.
Yeah.
Which is typically what stories do with acts. Act setting changes usually happen between acts. So like Act 1 is Fire Capital. Act 2 is Tree People and Merchant Port. Now Act 3 we have the Smoke Clan. So like the gang's wandering around, and you know the badass warriors of the Smoke Clan are like, you know, who are you? What are you doing? Or whatever. Like, and they're no shape to fight the Smoke Clan. Clayan, the character that we do see in the game story mode.
No, the scar.
She sees the baby, right? That Orcane's rescued or whatever, and it's like, okay, like we don't need to kill them, they're clearly like in trouble. And so she helps them out while they're, the gang's resting up. Forsburn notices like that the clan, they're packing up, getting their stuff, and they're ready to like move. Forsburn asks what is this about. Clan explains like, we've been getting attacked by these abyss dark creatures and we're gonna just move on. We're a pretty mobile people. Long ago we were exiled from Fire Capital. Forsburn's arc like kind of finishes right here. Is before, what was Forsburn like?
He was timid.
He didn't want to lead.
Yeah.
But now, like, after these events, he looks at Clan and he's like, running's not going to work anymore. Like, we need to fight. You need to let me, like, convince these people, because, like, these are warrior people, that if we work together, we can maybe do something. And Clan's like, okay, but they're not going to listen to someone from Fire Capital. And she hands him the skull mask. So this is also like a superhero thing, right? Typically when the superhero suits up, that's like an important moment in storytelling when that's supposed to signify like they're the hero now. So like this is Forsburn's moment. He now, wants to be a leader and, makes a big speech to the smoke people. Hey, do this, yada, yada, it works. Yay, everybody's happy and they want to go and fight the abyss. So then they go to that big hole in the ocean or whatever that is in the game, and they fight the abyss, but the abyss is too strong, and big battle ensues, and just when it looks like everybody's gonna lose, the abyss is too strong and everybody's gonna die, a big blast of fire kills like a bunch of abyss creatures, and it's Zetterburn with the Air Armada. Like that scene when Captain America saves Scarlet Witch and Vision coming
and the
in.
helicarrier comes
and you're
in.
just fucking coming. You're just, oh yeah, I love the Avengers. So Zetterburn now, he's kind of completed his arc. He's changed, he's reformed, he's redeemed. And so everybody's working together against the Abyss. And so they defeat the Abyss. Zetterburn finds Forsburn and is like, I'm so sorry. You should be the Emperor. Like, I am not fit to lead. And Forsburn looks at, like, the Avengers that he's assembled. And he says, Avengers, assemble! But that's it. That's the end. I tried to end it in the same place. Like, I tried to begin it in the same place and end it in the same place as Dan's story mode. But I gave two main arcs between Forsburn and Zetter. Like, a lot of the characters, like Orcane, Raster, don't really have arcs. They don't matter. They're in supporting cast. They're just there. We needed to centralize it around something, and so we have these two characters that kind of invert.
That's better.
I hope so.
That works.
Yeah. I wanted to hit all the key events of the main story mode. I wanted to make it as close as possible. So, like, Renburn dies. Zetterburn kills that fake Orcane. There's a hole in the rock wall. Really, like, my rewrite, it's like a second draft of what the first write was, right? So, like, I don't want to take all the credit because, like, a lot of the work was already there for me. I just, like, moved some pieces around. I was like, oh, this works out as, like, a story.
Yeah, it's just expanding on the ideas that were already there.
Yeah, like, the key takeaways was what I tried to do is I just took two characters and I gave them arcs. Zetterburn, he starts out as an asshole, and then he finds redemption. Forsburn starts out timid and becomes a leader. Yeah. They're like very simple stories.
Yes.
Plop them into the world of Rivals and it works. So yeah, let me know a review of my story, what you think in the comments.
And then we'll write it and put it on fanfic.net.
Or if you want to read my rewrite to get a third draft.
And if you want a furry rewrite, say in the comments.
But Stefan, it's already a furry rewrite.
Oh.
I forgot to mention the part at the end, they all just have sex with each other. It's like Sausage Party. It's just one big furry orgy.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that was the original story mode. I also wanted to throw in that Dan, hopefully, is improving as a storyteller. You know, it's not all bad. Like, the story mode is definitely one of the worst things that has come out. Ever since then, you can see, like, a clear improvement with, like, the Claren, Sylvanos, and Eliana trailers. To me, the Sylvanos one is probably the weakest one. Sylvanos falls into, like, the lot of the same issues of the original story mode, where it just starts with, once upon a time, there was some backstory, and people you don't care about fought, and then Sylvanos for no reason. And you're like, okay, well, that doesn't really affect Sylvanos at all, but sure.
That's true, but also I think it gives some context of what the wall is and who these people are and why
it's better execution. But like, to me, when you're thinking about the story mode or thinking about anything involved in the game, it has to route back to the player. What is my interaction with this? And if the answer is, well, it doesn't have anything to do with the player, then we're doing something wrong.
That makes sense.
And that's why I really like Claren and then especially Eliana, because both of those are active characters that are doing things for reasons.
Yes.
Like, why did the plant people and the fire people fight in the Sylvanos trailer?
Because it was destiny.
Like, there's who cares, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the characters. Like, it's weird that the grandmother's talking to Maple and Mayreed, but like, what does that have to do with them? I guess because it's like
their history, I guess.
That's why you don't go on the ground where the dog will eat you. Like, it's a really long story just for that. Meanwhile, like the Claren one, explain to me the Claren story, Stefan.
Yeah, the Claren story is, so Claren is this cool futuristic cyberpunk chick in the future where Loxodont has gained immortality somehow, and so Claren is a rebel trying to fight against his rule and is saved from a mysterious person. I have a theory about who that is.
I actually have no clue who that is, and when I rewatched the trailer, I totally forgot, like, oh yeah, there's like this other character that
I think it's Maple.
Sure.
Cyborg Maple.
So it's like a Terminator thing, you know, like gotta go back in time to stop Loxodont. So yeah, I like it.
And then so we both agree that the Eliana trailer is the best one.
It's
out of the bunch.
definitely the best
like
one.
It's the only one that has an arc. Like, Claren is better because you have a character doing things for reasons. Like, oh, it's bad and I want to fix it and make it good. And we as the player plays that character, so we have some context and it relates to us. Like with Sylvanos, it's like he's an angry plant dog. Right? He doesn't have anything to do with anything.
The soul at the heart of the forest, and he's angry.
What's great about the Eliana one is we have a character who, in the beginning, is different from how she ends, like the trailer. She starts off, she's just an innocent snake, and she wants to fly. She tries to join the Armada. They're like, hey, you're a stupid snake, you can't fly. She like builds a machine, it doesn't work, everybody laughs at her, she gets rejected. So then she goes to the city and finds a mechanic rabbit to help her out. And then the twist is
that the rabbit is sexy as hell.
That's not a twist, that's how it should be. A twist would be if it was just like a regular rabbit. So the twist is, instead of just accomplishing her goal and being able to fly and getting what she wants, she was changed by the events that we saw.
Yeah.
And she becomes angry and hates and resents the Armada. And so she wants to go and kill them.
Yeah, she's got a motivation for what she does, and I kind of understand.
And it's a comic book, too. That's
yeah,
why
it is.
That's the approach the story mode should have taken. I mean, I guess it kind of did. It just didn't have word bubbles and stuff, and is significantly lower budget and time. But yeah, I like the comic book style. Surprise, surprise. So hire me and Stefan.
Yeah, me too.
To write Rivals 2.
Put some more sexy bunnies in it for you.
But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed our little deep dive into the Rivals lore. Comment below, what other stories should we do a deep dive into? Well, one thing you don't need to say, because we'll definitely get to it, is Subspace Emissary. Do you even know what Subspace Emissary is?
No.
I guess Ultimate also has one, so that could be another one we do in the future. Those ones are obvious. If there's other ones that aren't as obvious, leave them down below, or just say, hey, just do Subspace Emissary, Adam Carra. God dang it, do it.
We should do one on Blasto.
What's Blasto?
It's a game with Phil Hartman. It's from PlayStation 1.
I'm back, but this time I brought a friend with me. Let me introduce you to Mr. Fission Blaster.
All right, so stay tuned for next time when we cover Blasto and the story of that. But yeah, let us know what you want us to cover in the future. Remember to like and subscribe. It really helps. If I don't ask for subscriptions, I get way less subscriptions.
Really?
Every video I ask, way more.
Really?
So prove me right and subscribe if you're not. Like, it's like 70% or something of my viewers aren't subscribed, so...
Yeah, Adam needs
So either
to
you're
eat.
a robot, in which case user override subscribe mode activates, or if you're a person, please I beg you, hit the subscribe
Yeah,
button.
do it, because Adam needs to eat, and I need to eat. Like, this is the only income that we have. Please.
All right, and now the catchphrase. What's the catchphrase? Fun.
There, do it.
I was gonna say, see you on the flip flop.
Oh, okay.